Hello everybody, this is Elizabeth from Silvernest Homeschooling Mama for Homeschooling for 12 years, and we have been going over this particular bookshelf for this winter, telling you what is on our shelf after 12 years of homeschooling, things that we've kept, things that we've used, things that we still plan to use. This is my holding shelf. I let my kids put stuff here that they want to keep, but don't want to keep on their shelves that they're currently have next to their beds. And so you'll find a lot of nostalgia on this particular shelf, a lot of mixed things. I do have a method to my madness sometimes, but I did not straighten up anything because I wanted you to get a full picture of what real life looks like. And no, these are not all our books. No, you do not need all these books to homeschool. Please, please, please do not see this as something that you need to have happen in order to school. We happen to love books before we started homeschooling, and we will love books after we finish homeschooling. We probably won't keep all these books, but sometimes I do have multiple copies because my children do want to take them with them. And so this is our final shelf on this particular big bookshelf, final little section. I do have some more bookshelves in the house. If you are interested in me taking you through those other bookshelves, or if you're thinking to yourself, I didn't see this series, I thought that series for sure would be on our shelves, it actually might be. It's just probably somewhere else. Each of my children have their own bookshelves and sometimes multiple bookshelves. And then I have 2 or 3 bookshelves myself. And then I also oftentimes will pull the books we're going to use that year, move them downstairs in a completely different bookshelf. I'm in my upstairs hallway, and so that is partly why I don't necessarily have everything in one place, and why everything isn't necessarily here for every single subject. But these are the ones that tend to be the ones that we have used in the past. So what we've got, the complete William Shakespeare. We do like William Shakespeare here, especially the comedies. I really like the Royal Shakespeare Company that performs in the Globe Theater, the old and not the current shows necessarily, but the ones that were done like maybe 10, 15 years ago. And so we have read some Shakespeare out loud. We also have watched some Shakespeare adaptations and YouTube videos of different things. We also have 5 Pages a Day, A Writer's Journey by Peg Peg. So she is a friend of my mother-in-law's and also just a really amazing lady. We ran into her at an art show recently, and she found out my daughter wants to be a writer, and so she highly recommended that we get a copy of her book, and it was really encouraging and inspiring for her. So great for high school. We also have Everyday Life in the Middle Ages, Writer's Guide. My daughter isn't currently writing in this time period, but this is something we picked up a long time ago, and so I like to have these things available. I have some from Victoria time as well. We also have the American Century Thesaurus. I always have a couple of thesauruses floating around. The computers work great, but I also really encourage my kids to do things by hand and also to get used to looking things up in thesauruses and dictionaries because it does something different for the brain. All right, some of their favorite childhood books. Terrific. Used to have a cover on it, but it's been read so much. All about a man who gets lost at sea and finds a parrot, and the only thing the parrot can say is terrific, but they end up making a good actual team. Oh no, the main guy says terrific all the time. He's super sarcastic, and then he ends up getting help after a while. So another one that has been a classic is this version of The 3 Little Pigs. Was gifted to my kids when they were really little from their aunt, and they really have enjoyed this over the years. Also, The 3 Billy Goats Gruff, another great preschool read that we've done for our 5 in a row when I started inventing my own 5 in a row things. So that's a curriculum that you find a book and they actually give you the list of books, and they give you a list of science projects, math projects, English, arts, all the things. And you read the same story 5 days in a row. And one day you do English, one day or language arts, one day you do social studies, that kind of thing. And so The 3 Billy Goats Gruff is great for that. It's also great for early theater with the kids acting out the different parts, making their own costumes. There's No Such Thing as a Dragon. One of my favorites from a kid. I still have the tape that goes with this, and it's all about a boy who finds a dragon. The mom doesn't believe in the dragon, and the more they ignore it, the bigger it gets, which leads to some really good conversations about how Just because we pretend something isn't there doesn't make the problem go away. Perhaps Birthday at the Panda Palace. We also have the Panda Palace, and this is the second one. And my kids really enjoy this one, where all the bears' friends come to celebrate, and signed copies are always super extra. We also have Song of the Swallows, another classic, great book gifted to us by my sister-in-law, and again, another one that we decided to use for 5 in a row, all about California and these swallows that come back to Capistrano. It was great for studying birds, studying an area that we'd never been to before, and when we went through California on a road trip, we were able to stop and see some of these beautiful buildings, and also tell some of the harder parts of the story to the kids as they got older. Another classic we really love, 10 Minutes Till Bedtime. That's pretty much very few words in this, so it's a great early reader, but all about these hamsters and this little boy getting ready for bed. Another wonderful early reader classic book, The Fire Cat. Not a ton of words, but it's all about Pickles, who doesn't know what to do, so he bullies everybody, but he has really big paws. And this fireman decides to take him with him and teach him how to be a fire cat and start helping people with those big paws instead of being a bully. Okay, you know it's a good book if it's ripped. Zomo the Rabbit, another wonderful book. My kids absolutely loved my husband reading this over and over and over again. Set in Africa. Great story. Legend of the Indian Paintbrush. Tommy DePaula. We do really like Tommy DePaula's work as well. Done a lot of 5 in a row with this, including this book. And the story of someone who's trying to capture art. And so as an artist family, that really lent itself well to the early elementary preschool year. We also have used the Magic Fan for 5 in a row. And you ask, like, how do I use a book that wasn't specifically used with the curriculum? It's just after a while, the system was easy for me to start finding books that I loved that weren't covered in 5 in a row. Like, they only cover, because it was created as a curriculum by the mom for her own kids. And so they do a lot of the same areas and to learn about where they came from. And so, of course, we don't live where they came from. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and so I picked books that had to do with the Pacific Northwest or countries that they didn't cover in the material. And so this one is set in Japan, and so we were able to study Japan. And how would we do that? So, like, we might fold fans and paint on them for our artwork. We always would find out, how did they make the art that went into the book. We might learn about tsunamis for our science. We might count how many pages there were, or how many different teapots there were, how many houses there were. So you're talking about really young kindergartners, first grade, second grade. Madeline is a great one because it has a lot to do with 12. And then you would, practice looking up words that the kids didn't know, or you could even study things like, so here you have the village is finished, the towers. And so I would have the kids go and make me a habitat. Design me a bridge out of Lego, or design me a bridge out of, blocks. And so the engineering side of it, the language would be learning the new words and maybe acting out the story. So lots of ways to do it. My second copy of Little Bunny Follows His Nose. My original is up at the top there. Probably should put these together. It's a scratch and sniff story. And so if you've never heard of one of those, you actually scratch here, and it's supposed to smell like strawberry jam. Now, my nostalgia tells me it doesn't smell as good as my book that I had when I was little, but the book I had when I was little is missing the whole end of this story because I had used it so much that I had ripped it. And so when my kids were little, a different sister-in-law learned how much I loved this book and went and made sure my kids had their own copy. And yes, I have used this for 5 in a row as well. Great story. George and Martha, another good early reader. All these funny adventures for George and his friend Martha. And they have all kinds of funny comparisons or challenges, but it's mostly about just friendship. And then the one I had when I was a kid, One Fine Day with George and Martha. And my kids liked it so much we ended up collecting more of these. Also, Corduroy is a great book for that early preschool, early elementary, and 5 in a row. We have used this, all about a teddy bear that wants to be adopted so bad and find a friend. Another George and Martha Back in Town. This is a 5 in a row book, The Glorious Flight. So we learn about Louis Blériot, his family, France, flying, all these wonderful, wonderful things. The artwork is amazing. They're not super complicated, and by reading them over and over again, the kids are getting a different taste and a different understanding. I mean, it's really important in those early years to read the same books over and over and over again. Repetition might be boring for you, but it should be great for the kids. And my argument is the same as someone else's argument, that if it's a really good book, you won't mind reading it over and over again. If it's a bad book that you don't enjoy, then it's probably not worth reading it at all. The Bee Tree, another one we've done for 5 in a row. Patricia Polacco, they have a really boring day, so they decide to go have an adventure by catching a bee and following it back to its nest, and the whole town ends up joining them. Such a creative book. Another one that my kids pretty much have memorized is The Fox Went Out on a Chilly Night. My husband has read and sang this one so much to them. Again, preschool and younger elementary. And Anzie and the Moss-Colored Rock. Oh, they still quote this book to this day. I think that's it. You know, it doesn't have to be this pile of books. It's that book that you and your kids bond over, that you just have so much emotional attachment to because of the fun memories and jokes that happen around it. There's a rock that makes people, or animals in this case, pass out, kind of fall asleep. And so in Anzie, the spider uses this to capture everything. And then at the end, the animals all trick him back, which is pretty fun. Leo the Late Bloomer. This is again, my book from my childhood, all about a tiger that just doesn't seem to be able to do things that everyone else can do. And then his father is very worried about him. But at the end, he's able to do everything that they do and actually surpass them. He just takes a little bit longer to learn it the first time around. Not that it's important that he surpasses them. It just happens to be one of those things where he doesn't speak until he says a whole sentence. So yeah, great story. Beautiful art. Harvey's Hideout. Again, I love Liv Russell Hoban and Lillian Hoban. I think Bread and Jam for Francis, Little Sister for Francis, and the Arthur series. This one is all about Harvey's special hideout and how he likes to have this special place that he goes to, and arguments back and forth, but a little more reading in here than, say, the Arthur series or the Francis series, but a wonderful story. And speaking of Francis, here's Best Friends for Francis. So good. All about what does friendship mean? How do we make friends? How do we forgive people? And the trouble with friends, Berenstain Bears. So another way you could do a 5 in a row unit would be to find a series of books on the same topic, for example, friendship, and read one book all 5 days, but then every day add another book about friendship and include that as well. Or I like to give them a whole pile of books, and then they would just pick which one they wanted me to read, but they would all happen to be curated from the library, either the public library or from my own library. Berenstain Bears and the Bad Habit. Just Big Enough. We love Mercer Mayer, especially for early preschool and early elementary school. These are so funny and so sincere and so real. Little critters always getting into trouble and having to work things out. And they're just really, really well done. Mercer Mayer is one of my heroes. I wish I could write books like Mercer Mayer. Just Grandma and Me. Just My Lost Treasure. Just Me and My Dad. Just Me and My Mom. Oh, this one is so funny because he always does things like, I picked up a little dinosaur to show my mom, but someone ran up and grabbed it. I wasn't going to hurt it. Like, everything is from his perspective. I'm sorry. Oh man, Mercer Mayer. Just Me and My Friend, also friendship, so you could do another one like that. And then some more early I can read books. Morris Goes to School. Morris is a moose and he wants to learn how to buy jelly beans, so he goes to school to learn how to count and how to read so he can buy his jelly beans. And this is a great first reader, but also would be a great 5 in a row book. Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel, one of my absolute favorite books. And I love the scene in Ramona where she asks, how does he go to the bathroom? My mom did read this book until she got tired of reading it. And you could tell that even though we kept really good care of our books when I was a kid, this is one of the ones that they read over and over again, all about how Mike Mulligan doesn't want to get rid of his steam shovel and figures out a way to keep her. And in 5 in a Row, when we study this, we talk about personification, and the kids get to choose something and write a story or tell a story about how their inanimate object is alive. And it's just super great example of how successful 5 in a Row is. We used it from kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and a little bit of, usually we left by 3rd grade, but what a wonderful way to just gather on the couch and read and learn together. A birthday for Francis. And Elephant Goes to School. This is the 2nd book. And the 1st book is But No Elephants. And I don't even know if these two are around anymore, but this was one of my absolute, I know I keep saying that. This is my absolute favorite book from when I was a kid, but really, honestly, truly, this one is one of my absolute favorites. This woman, she has this pet man, and he keeps selling her all these pets, and the pets want to be helpful. And so she gets to work with the pets, and they are helpful. But every time they ask her, does she want an elephant? She's like, no elephants. And the poor little elephant has to stay in the snow. And then finally she lets him in, but then he breaks the house, and then he eats all their food. And yeah, great story. You'll have to find out the ending, but he does learn to be helpful. All right, some more classic books. Let's see. So instead of kid books, we're kind of have this mix in half. So we've got E.B. White's The Elements of Style, which is a classic book for writers to read, and can be really helpful for high school students. A Hog on Ice and Other Curious Expressions. So this whole book is just idioms. And my daughter, that is a writer, has gone through these, and I have gone through some of them. But back in the day, before we had the internet, guys, when you could look up something, you had to have a book that had the information in it. All right. I studied theater in college, and so one of my books that I read for my playwriting class was The Elements of Playwriting. I also have used this acting and theater book for teaching my children theater and their friends. I like this Usborne book, even though it's old, because it actually covers just about everything that you would want to go over with the kids. And when I forget what to include because I'm just so used to doing it, this helps bring me back to the basics. I also have basically the history of theater, and then Uta Hagen's author of Respect for Acting, A Challenge for the Actor, How to Take It All Seriously. And then this one is my directing class, college textbook, Play Directing. And one of my favorite acting books, Acting with Style, also from college. So in case, I do have some kids that are into theater, and in case I wanted to teach a class again or remind myself what we did, that is why all of those are there. And there we have it, guys. Those are the 20 shelves of this particular bookshelf that holds my things. This last section is some board games and our scrapbooks. And then way up there are our finished curriculums that I store just in case we need them. And then as the kids graduate, they have the right to burn them or throw them away, just like we did my senior year in public school, where we threw all of our papers and had a big paper toss. So that's kind of where we are. I hope that was helpful and fun. I hope you found something new and enjoyable to look for. It is harder with some of these vintage books to locate, but hey, what if you go to a free library and you see a vintage book and you're like, oh wow, I did learn that that's a good one. Or maybe this just gave you some ideas of how to enjoy books with your children more. We hope that you are having a wonderful year with your students. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you do want me to go through some of my other shelves, I'd be more than happy to. And we will talk to you soon.